Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The sound incarnation of Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Soul, in other words, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. Please repeat. The sound incarnation of Lord Kṛṣṇa.
The sound incarnation of Lord Kṛṣṇa.
The Supreme Soul.
The Supreme Soul.
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee.
Enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee.
Sits on the lotus flower.
Sits on the lotus flower
of his loving relationship.
Of his loving relationship.
And thus cleanses the dust.
And thus cleanses the dust.
Of material association.
Of material association.
Such as lust. Anger and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains. Upon pools of muddy water. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said that a devotee of the Lord can deliver all the fallen souls of the world. Thus, one who is actually in the confidence of a pure devotee like Narada or Sukadeva Goswami, and thus is empowered by one's spiritual master, as Narada was by Brahmaji, can not only deliver himself from the clutches of Maya or illusion, but can deliver the whole world by his pure and empowered devotional strength. The comparison to the autumnal rain that falls on muddy reservoirs of water is very appropriate. During the rainy season, all the waters of the rivers become muddy. But in the month of July, August, the autumn season, when there is a slight rainfall, the muddy waters of the rivers all over the world become at once clear. By the addition of some chemical, a small reservoir of water, like that of a metropolitan waterworks tank, can be cleared. But by such a tiny effort, it is not possible to clear up all the reservoirs of water like the rivers. A powerful pure devotee of the Lord, however, can deliver not only his personal self, but also many others in his association. In other words, the cleansing of the polluted heart by other methods, for example, like the culture of etheric knowledge or mystic gymnastics, can simply cleanse one's own heart. But devotional service to the Lord is so powerful that it can cleanse the hearts of the people in general. By the devotional service of the pure, empowered devotee, a true representative of the Lord like Narada, Sukadeva Goswami, Lord Chaitanya, the six Goswamis, and later Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, etc., is Srila Prabhupada, etc., can deliver all people by their empowered devotional service. By sincere efforts to hear Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, one realizes his constitutional relationship with the Lord in the transcendental humor of servitude, friendship, fraternal affection, or conjugal love. And by such self-realization, one becomes situated at once in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Not only were all the pure devotees like Narada self-realized souls, but they were engaged in preaching work automatically by spiritual impetus, and thus they delivered many poor souls entangled in the material modes. They became so powerful because they sincerely followed the Bhagavatam principles by regular hearing and worshipping. By such actions, the accumulated material lusts, etc., became cleansed by the personal endeavor of the Lord within the heart. The Lord is always within the heart of the living being, but he becomes manifested by one's devotional service. Purification of the heart by culture of knowledge or mystic yoga may be all right for the time being for an individual person, but it is like the cleansing of a small quantity of stagnant water by chemical processes. Such clarification of water may stand for the time being, and the sediments settle down, but by a slight agitation, everything becomes muddy. The idea is that devotional service to the Lord is the only method of cleansing the heart for good, whereas other methods may be superficially good for the time being. There is a risk of becoming muddy again due to agitation of the mind. Devotional service to the Lord with specific attention for hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam regularly and always is the best recommended method for liberation from the clutches of illusion. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksush Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadanti Svavadanti Kam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakopa Tubhischa, Kripa Sindhuravcha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So the verse again. Pravishta Karna Radrina Swanam Bhava Saroham Dunoti Shamalam Krishna Sadilasya Yata Sharat. And the translation. The sound incarnation of Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Soul, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon the pools of muddy water. So it's a very wonderful verse, very potent purport by Srila Prabhupada. 4 pages of purport, very nice. Describes the devotees. It actually explains to us how pure devotees act, what they do. And also it describes how one can actually become a pure devotee. It's a very important process here is described. Srila Prabhupada's pure devotees. So as we know, this verse probably remembers or reminds everyone of the Light of the Bhagavat or the Krishna book, the autumnal season. After the rainy season comes the very beautiful autumn season. As it says in the Light of the Bhagavat, the fully beautiful scenery after the rainy season is attractive to the eyes of everyone, including Sri Krishna, the cause of all causes. So here's the description of that. Very beautiful. You see the lotus flowers, everything's very clear. And so this is the temporary creation of Krishna. It's actually true, it's relative true. It's a temporary picture of the eternal creation. And for the forgetful souls who have no information of the spiritual world, known as the Sanatan Dham, but they're just completely attached to this temporary creation. By seeing the beauty of nature, especially the autumn season, it gives us an idea of what the original creation must be like. So as Prabhupada says, as devotees, we should make the best use of a bad bargain and utilize this temporary creation in devotional service to Krishna. So it goes on, as we see here, Krishna and Balaram were very much enjoying this autumn season. After this rainy season had left, they were noticing how all the reservoirs of water, they're becoming very clear and clean, and there was very pleasing, refreshing air was blowing everywhere. And the sky, it was completely cleared of clouds, and you could see its natural blue color. And then there was many lotus flowers blooming everywhere. And the forest appeared very beautiful. So this represents, as Prabhupada writes in his books, how it represents the fallen yogi who fell from his practice, but again, takes it up and becomes beautiful again by taking up his spiritual life, his sadhana practice, his personal practice. So everything becomes beautiful in the autumn season. So similarly, even a materialistic person, if he takes to Krishna consciousness, he can actually become as clear as the autumnal sky and as clear as the ponds and the water in the autumn season. So another verse here. In autumn, all the reservoirs of water become enriched with glowing lotuses. The muddy water again becomes normally clear and decorated, just as fallen conditioned souls once more become spiritually enriched in devotional service. So this one verse particularly relates to today's class, which is very nice about how the devotees, they're completely engaged in devotional service, enjoying the lotus flower stems, and becoming clear in their consciousness. So it looks like, hold on a second here, lost contact. So let's just go on here. Let's see here. Let's see, I'm trying to get the contact here. Hold on a second. Should come up again here. So, as you can see, the swans, they're very much happy and enjoying this clear autumn season. So anyway, it looks like I lost contact, so I'm just going to continue here and go to the next one. Let's see what we got here. Hopefully I didn't lose contact with you.
No, you're almost here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Let's try this again. We just lost your video for a second.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get on another network. Let's see if I can get on.
Well, we could hear you perfectly the entire time.
Okay, let me just try something different. Sometimes the network that we use gets messed up, so let's try something. Let me just try one more network to see how that works. Sorry about that. Let me just go on here. Looks like it doesn't. Here we go. iPhone. And
I'm going to send you another
hold
request.
on a second. Okay, let's see.
I'm going to send you another request. All right.
Okay, now it looks like, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. The entire time we can hear you. Now we're just waiting to hit your screen.
Okay.
Okay.
You see my screen?
Not yet. We're waiting for a response.
Oh, I didn't
Waiting
get
for a response from participants. Here, let's try another. Let's try one more time here. Okay, you should see an invite from me.
I don't see it, Prabhu. Oh, here, no, I don't see it.
Just waiting for you to say yes.
You see it on the bottom. Yeah, it's okay, but you should. Should be on. So, I don't see your.
Yeah, I'm sending you an invite. It should be on your screen saying, participant, would you like to decline? Let's try again.
I see a gray, something gray comes out. It's blank.
Anyway.
Maybe I should close start meeting and start again.
Okay.
I'm going to quit start meeting.
I'll unmute everyone during the intermission here. Sorry, Prabhu. Somewhere in there. Usually nowadays he's got a good internet connection. High-speed connection.
Okay, Prabhu, I'm on now.
All right.
Okay, I see it now.
Okay.
Alrighty then. Correct. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, yes, as Prabhupada mentions in the light of the Bhagavad, how we shouldn't be disappointed with our muddy life. Make use of a bad bargain and take up devotional service. So I hear a lot of talking and static still. But Prabhupada wanted us to take up devotional service, and in that way our whole life would become clear, just like this autumn season. So devoid of this devotional service, our whole life becomes barren. But with devotional service, the muddy mind, the dirty senses, all our life, it becomes very cleared up. And we become free from these dirty modes of material nature. So the devotees, they actually have a relationship with Krishna. And they're like Chakrabaka birds and swans, and they play in the forest of the lotus flowers. And this represents like the pastimes Krishna with Krishna. And the buds of these lotus flowers, they represent the pastimes of Krishna. And the devotees are always playing and sporting in these pastimes. So these are the devotees, if we follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and we eat these lotus buds, we will become very advanced and we will enjoy spiritual life perpetually, and all the miseries will diminish as described in this particular verse. And that's where we'll get real happiness and we'll be jubilant in love of God. So as the light of Bhagavad goes on describing this autumn season, how all those dark clouds now have become very light and they're very white and they're just floating very nicely. So this is what it does. It takes away the dark rolling clouds as well as the polluted water. So that filthy condition that was on the ground, it's cleared. So similarly, as we take up to Krishna consciousness, then immediately we become cleansed of all dirty things. That's also within and without. So this is Krishna, which means Hari. Hari means he who takes away. So Krishna takes away all those unclean habits from us. And the clouds, they become white. They don't carry water anymore. And it represents the retired man is freed from all the responsibilities of his family affairs, maintaining his home, his wife, his children. And then he just takes up Krishna consciousness completely, and he becomes free from all anxieties. So these are the lessons from the autumn season. It's very descriptive and very deep. Also in the autumn season, the falls come down from the top of the hills and they supply clean water. And this is representative of the saintly person who sometimes distributes clear knowledge and sometimes is silent. So now that we have heard this knowledge, we should take advantage of it. Sometimes it's not available because we're so covered over. But now, for some reason, we're able to take advantage of these refreshing waters. So we should really hear them very carefully. Because as these small ponds in the autumn season, where all these little creatures, these small aquatics, they're living. But they don't realize that it is drying up, the water is drying up day by day in this hot sun. So these are like ourselves and materialistic persons who get too engrossed in the material affairs of our life. But we don't understand. We forget that day by day the duration of our life is diminishing, just like these small aquatics. So as this autumn season also describes how that muddy earth, it gradually dries up and newly grown fresh vegetation begins to wither. So that's just like we take up Krishna consciousness and the desire for enjoyment in the material world, it gradually dries up. And then also the seas and the oceans, they become very calm, very quiet. Just like a person who has developed self-realization, he becomes free from disturbance by these three modes of material nature. Isn't it so nice, the description of nature? We can become self-realized just by understanding nature, Prabhupada said. And also we see the farmers in the autumn season. They're actually building strong walls so that the water contained in the field, it can't run out. So they're going to save whatever water is in the field. So similarly, a person who's actually advanced in self-realization, he protects his energy by controlling the senses. And Prabhupada explained how during the Vedic times, at the age of 50, man would retire and conserve his energy and would just engage in advancement in Krishna consciousness and take up the loving transcendental service of Krishna, Mukunda. So this cleansing process is described in the Antya-lila by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Cheto darpana marjanam, bhavamaha devagni nivapanam. So Lord Chaitanya says, Sadhu Shastra Kripaya Yadi Krishna Mukha. Our only business is how to become Krishna conscious. And that can be done simply, how? By the mercy of a sadhu. So therefore, a sadhu's business is what? To go from door to door and enlighten all the conditioned souls. That's a sadhu's business, is to go to door and try to invoke Krishna consciousness. That's dormant in everyone's heart. It's like being in a sleeping state. So Prabhupada very much liked that his European and American boys and girls, that he's explaining how Krishna consciousness was dormant in them. How could it be invoked if it wasn't dormant? And that's how it was evoked, this Shravanadi Sudha Chitta Kori E Ujaya. So this is there, it's always there, Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakti. So this is the statement of Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the Krishna consciousness is already there, but by hearing and purifying yourself, that consciousness comes. Just like we're describing the water, it becomes very clean. You know, in the sky, it gets evaporated up to the clouds, and it becomes distilled water, but as soon as it hits the ground, it becomes muddy. So that muddiness can be cleansed again, and that's the Krishna consciousness movement that Prabhupada started. All these contaminated, muddy things, it's like this cloudy, dirty water, can be cleansed by the process of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we have to take up this clarifying process. It's better than the chemical process Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. You know, they add alum to some water and it supposedly purifies it, so you can drink it. But this is much better. The chanting of Hare Krishna is cleansing the dirty waters of these material modes of material nature that are contaminating us. So there's so much disturbance in this material world. We could see, especially during the rainy season, how everything becomes disturbed. The water becomes agitated, the mud is, brought up from the bottom. So this is like our consciousness. Sometimes it becomes materially contaminated. But as soon as the cloud, it pours the pure water and it becomes in touch with the earth, it becomes muddy immediately. But yet, as we're describing, this original clearness can be regained. And this is what the Krishna consciousness movement is, the process of clearing our consciousness. And as soon as it's clear and pure, then we're eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world. So Prabhupada says, in so many places, therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement should be taken very seriously by the leaders of human society. And here's that process described in the first canon. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Vidi Anta Staha. So Prabhupada says, if you just come and you hear Krishna's within you, he's always in your heart. He's actually your friend. He's not your enemy. So Prabhupada explained how to the young boys and girls when he was preaching how, you're all searching for friends. You want somebody to talk with, somebody to joke with, somebody to love. But Krishna is sitting in your heart for that purpose. And if you make love with Krishna, if you love Krishna, you make friends with Krishna, then you'll be successful. You don't have to go search out any other friend, he says. The friend's already there. So whether you're a boy or girl, you have a friend within you. So this is the yoga system, is to realize that friend within you. So if we just become a little inclined to hear Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Swakata Krishna, then avoid any other nonsense talks, then Krishna will be so pleased with you. And then all these things will be purified. Just like that seawater. As soon as it touches the land, it becomes impure, it becomes cloudy, muddy. But because you're part and parcel of Krishna, and if you associate with Krishna, those muddy things would be cleaned up. So here's a nice example of Daksha. There's a verse in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that says, at that time, when Daksha saw Lord Shiva, who rides upon a bull, his heart, which was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, was immediately cleansed, just as the water in a lake is cleansed by autumn rains. So you can see here how he actually became purified. This is an example of how and why Lord Shiva is called auspicious. If anyone sees Lord Shiva with devotion and reverence, his heart is immediately cleansed, just like Daksha. He was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva. And yet, upon seeing him with just a little love and devotion, his heart immediately became cleansed. And now, just like in the rainy season, the reservoirs of water, they become dirty and muddy, but as soon as the autumn rains come, all the water immediately becomes clear and transparent. So just like Daksha's heart was so impure, he was slandering Lord Shiva, and then he was severely punished, as you can see. But he came to his consciousness, and he, just by this veneration and respect, he became immediately purified. So similarly, we have so many devotees have come, and we can see Srila Vyasadeva had a vision of Lord Kṛṣṇa. He received direct instructions from his spiritual master, Narada Muni, to compile the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And so Srila Prabhupada, he also had his vision, and he received instructions from his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Srila Prabhupada envisioned distributing in mass the books of Srila Vyasadeva. Not only did Prabhupada translate them into English, but he took them personally to the West. He presented them there, he taught them, distributing the books. He taught through the books how one can develop love for God. So just by the fact that Srila Prabhupada gave Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam the greatest importance, we can see because he dedicated his life to translating and distributing it himself, practically, is major evidence that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the main scripture for all ages, for all persons, all places. So once he began composing his translations and commentaries, that was in Vrindavan in 1959, he never ceased. For 11 straight years, even when he was traveling all over the world spreading Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada always managed to rise at 1 o'clock in the morning, write his Bhaktivedanta purports to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and as part of his regular daily schedule, he would take morning walks, and during that time, his speech would overflow with verses based on the Bhagavatam. And then he'd hold a class in the temple room, and then induce his disciples to chant the Bhagavatam sloka along with him. And then he would lecture on the Bhagavatam for an hour. And that was his schedule every day, without fail. And even returning to Vrindavan, just before passing away, he could hardly find strength even to speak, but he was dictating purports to the 10th canto. So isn't Srila Prabhupada's life itself just like one long, eloquent praise of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam? So who can fail to respond to Prabhupada's life testimony on behalf of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam? Who can't try to read the books that Prabhupada gave so lovingly and tirelessly he gave? As Prabhupada says, only one who's a killer of the soul, only one who's not human but a beast, he'll be uninterested in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So these verses of the Bhagavatam, they praise the standard of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that it's not cheap praise, but rather Krishna himself intends that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam becomes the shelter for all in the Kali Yuga. As that verse says, this Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun. It has arisen just after the departure of Lord Kṛṣṇa to his own, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall light on. So Prabhupada commented on this verse and he said, one who can see Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that he can also see Krishna in person. Right? This verse is explained. So there's a very nice appreciation to the Prabhupada and him coming and distributing his transcendentals. And this is a nice book given by Satyrup Das Goswami on living with the scriptures and how Prabhupada was a perfect example that we should take it up and become greatly fortunate, and that we should study and appreciate this spotless Purana. So this is what he was saying in that book. He says, as a fallen, inattentive rascal, I nevertheless adjure myself and my readers, let us not wait until tomorrow. Let us read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam today and every day, and sincere praises of Sri Krishna's beautiful book. That was from Satyrup Das Goswami. You can see beautiful, and devotional service is Krishna is very pleasing. It's like a jubilant forest of lotus flowers where there's plenty of honey. And Krishna wanted everyone to taste this honey and be free from all this mental speculation and bring the bees of their minds to these lotus flowers and jubilantly enjoy ecstatic love of Krishna day and night. And that's how we become completely satisfied. So as devotees, we have to churn look at the great endeavor the demons and the demigods wanted to get this so-called immortal nectar. They went through so much endeavor to get this great nectar. But we have something even more valuable than the nectar of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So we have to take it seriously. The next verse, it says here, the devotees of the Lord obtain the nectar of knowledge from the ocean of material existence by churning it with the Mandara mountain in the form of personal service. Thus they become from hunger, thirst, lamentation, fear, heat, cold, poverty, and dreaming. They take pleasure only in the Supreme Brahman, who is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. What a great verse, huh? So if we become constantly engaged in reading these transcendental literatures and engage in devotional service, then we'll always be glorious in human society. It's even described that a person who very, very carefully keeps such literature at home and offers respectful obeisances to it becomes freed from all sinful reactions and ultimately becomes worshipable by the demigods. So it's such amazing opportunity we have. And just think how intensely Prabhupada must have cried for Krishna to save us. You see, Prabhupada was like the gentle rains. But not only that, he was like a torrential downpour, giving so much nectar that, it was like a cloud bank of mercy. He just drenched city after city with his prasadam, with his books, with the holy name. So we should always think. There was a nice Vyasa Puja offering one devotee was saying from New York. He says, so we look to the heavens and we wonder, will those sweet rains come again? Srila Prabhupada, sometimes it seems like we're drying up and dying in this drought. Will you cry for us again? If just one more of your oceanic tears fell in the city, it would cause another inundation. Let's see, one pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, what he can do. So here's Srila Prabhupada himself, very much appreciated his books, very much struggled to produce these books, and he appreciated them. He read them regularly. But what is the awful truth? As written by Satyrup Das Goswami in his books, The Reading Reform, he was describing asking actually, how many devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement do not regularly read Srila Prabhupada's books? And unfortunately he said the answer is too many. And there's many reasons devotees give. they actually will reluctantly admit or keep it a secret. They won't admit, that they spare very little time. Even managers and people in charge of things, even on a weekly basis, they will very rarely read or even look through Prabhupada's books. What to speak of setting aside some time. And the ones that do, they find it very difficult to read attentively. Even Sankirtan devotees, they'll open Prabhupada's books and their mind will just go a million miles away, or they'll just fall asleep. Some people will even admit that, I find these books boring, the same thing all over again. I sleep whenever I try to read. So these are all too common. And this is bad, poor reading habits. So we have to become very, very serious. And we have to reform our reading habits. There's a nice article he gave also Satya Das Goswami about hearing. And he mentioned 6 things that should be there in order to really hear properly, that this is complete hearing. And he mentioned 1 is intelligence, submissiveness is 2, 3, rapt attention, and 4, not hearing from anywhere but the right source. And next one, following rules and regulations. Otherwise, if we, like Prabhupada says, just hear, touch Trinu. Just hear. But you can't hear if you're sinful. Touch Trinu. And then lastly, we should strictly follow the rules of the spiritual master. So through his own life and through his reading, reform, and things, he came up with these different ideas to see that actually we need intelligence to read properly. We have to utilize our time. We can't have perverted intelligence to try to screw something out of Prabhupada's books, make up things. Like Prabhupada says, we should read 24 hours a day. So, you just give up all your service and you read 24 hours a day? Not like that. No, we should always be absorbed in the Bhagavatam 24 hours a day. It was interesting, I was reading through the Jaiva Dharma, and it's very nice. It's one of our main literatures translated by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or written by him. And there was he was asking Vijay, this one of the what do you call it, the actors or the persons within this story. He's asking him, what is Kramahina Shravana Das? Or in other words, that's irregular hearing. And the Goswami replies to him, this Kramahina Shravana Das is hearing about Krishna Lila in an irregular and unmethodical manner. Hearing Krishna with irresolute intelligence results in this sort of unmethodical Shravana, because such hearing does not enable one to realize the relationship between the various Leelas, and thus rasa does not awaken in his heart. So then he said, please explain about Krama Sudha Shravana Das. That's a systematic hearing. And he says, rasa only awakens in one's heart when Krishna Lila is heard methodically or in a regular order with resolute intelligence. Prabhupada said so many quotes. You can see Prabhupada says we should always encourage our students to read our books throughout the day as much as possible. They give you good advice. You can understand things from many different points of view. You should boil the milk very vigorously, make it thick and sweet. Discuss my books, hear my tapes. And he said, actually, these books are the foundation stone of our movement. Whatever we are is resting on these books. Reading and distributing them, this should be our only motto. It's a letter to Hridayananda Maharaj. So you could go on and on and on about Prabhupada, so many quotes about everything is there. Study our books, be convinced yourself, so many things. We have to just go on and on. So as is described, this nice quote from Shakespeare, the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven. So this is the spiritual master. His receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water in a forest fire to extinguish it, So the spiritual master delivers the materially restricted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. So Prabhupada compared this ocean of auspiciousness to Lord Kṛṣṇa. But as Krishna's representative, he himself also identified with that ocean. So just as the sun and the sunshine are not different, so thus Srila Prabhupada's mercy, it droppeth as gentle rain from heaven. So this is Srila Prabhupada. And we should swim, we should drink deep, we should fully relish this taste of Srila Prabhupada's books. All the ISKCON devotees, they should swim in this oceanic nectarine service to Srila Prabhupada and his great mission. And this is the rain of mercy. It's drawn from the ocean of the nectar of devotion. And it falls upon us by the divine grace of Krishna in the form of Srila Prabhupada. And that soothes all this burning material existence. So this is Prabhupada's books. It's the chief vehicle how we can transform and go from here to the spiritual world. And each and every volume of Srila Prabhupada's books is like another drop of this gentle rain of mercy. And they purify all the conditioned souls, pouring upon them these transcendental songs about Govinda, and thus increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. So here's Lord Chaitanya. He's like the moon, the great moon, and the devotees, they take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they take the responsibility for distributing this nectarian devotional service all over the world. They're also like clouds pouring water in the ground that nourishes fruit, this fruit of love of God. So the devotees, we eat the fruit to our heart's content, and then whatever remnants are left, we give them to the general populace. This is how we live happily. So this is the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're full of nectar. And the pastimes of Lord Kṛṣṇa, they're like camphor. And when you mix these, the taste is very sweet. So by the mercy of the pure devotees, whoever tastes these can understand the depths of this sweetness. So therefore we have to become very strong and stout, not just by eating grains, but by relishing these transcendental literatures given by Srila Prabhupada, by the order of the spiritual master, by the order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is where we will end up in the spiritual world. Krishna, you can see all his inconceivable energies, they expand from himself. They're all different forms. And he has innumerable, many innumerable energies. And he can do anything and everything, just as he desires. And whatever he desires, it just takes place immediately with all perfection. So we can see, well, what does Krishna do? I mean, he has actually nothing to do. He just thinks of something and it happens automatically. But we can see, as Srila Prabhupada has told us, Krishna has more time for us than we have for him. It's like he has nothing to do except reciprocate with his devotees in love. So we should develop love for Srila Prabhupada's books, develop love for devotional service, and we will have contact with our supreme friend, the only real friend. So thank you very much. I guess it's 10 now, and maybe if there's some comments or questions.
Yeah, Prabhu, it's really loud here where I am, so I'm going to mute myself, but I'm going to unmute everybody else.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Go to G. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Prabhu, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, thank you for the lovely class. Just an observation. I had a question, but my question was sort of answered, I guess, as you went along. So I just want to point that out because I don't know, it touched me a lot. You were describing about the rainy season, which is mentioned in the Krishna book,
and the autumn season.
In the light of the Bhagavat, and how that it comes at a certain time, and then a certain time it goes away. And you said, you sort of tied that in with the fact that that's analogous to the words of the pure devotee entering to the ear, which purifies the mind. And you said that's like the autumn season. Sometimes it comes and then it goes, just like sometimes the pure devotee will speak and sometimes he remains silent.
Yes.
And that was your point in the very beginning of the talk, which was very sweet and very correct. But then as you went on, you began speaking about Srila Prabhupada and how he never stopped speaking, and he sort of he went beyond what would be the normal mode of the pure devotee, who sometimes speaks and sometimes doesn't, or the autumn season that sometimes comes and then it subsides. But Prabhupada is so incredibly merciful. He's like the autumn rains that never ever stop. And because Prabhupada never stopped speaking, and as you so nicely mentioned, to his practically his last breath, and we've all seen those videos of Prabhupada in his last moments where they were just holding the microphone up to his lips. He was lying and he could barely speak, but he was continuing to translate the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. So anyway, that's just an observation from what you were saying. You were describing something in the beginning, but then you went further and just showed that unlimited mercy of Prabhupada in the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because I think the description of the pure devotee, that sometimes he will speak and sometimes he will not speak, is sort of pre-Mahaprabhu.
I mean, it's amazing how Prabhupada, that one picture, Prabhupada just shows him crying.
Yeah, it was very sweet. So we're so fortunate now. We have to be part of that and not sometimes speak and sometimes no. Our only business is to constantly push on this movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But as you pointed out, very important point, in order for us to be able to preach with potency and power, we have to be connected to Srila Prabhupada's books, because that will empower, that will purify our hearts, and that will give us the potency to go on forever speaking and pushing on this movement. So, anyway, great class.
That's our endeavor. You know, we can endeavor so hard in the material world like the demons and demigods. What happened? Ultimately, they got cheated, and it wasn't. And then even the demigods, they thought they got the nectar, but they were killed, and a lot of them were killed in the war after this particular pastime. So what's the point? We have the real nectar, you know. So that should be our service, and that's our only endeavor, is to somehow or another read, you know. I mean, like Satyamar is aware that, and what is the awful truth is that we very rarely pick up these books. And one devotee was explaining how he was with his spiritual master. Just happened to be sitting with his spiritual master and just being there, and he was seeing so many different devotees, you know, counseling them and, you know, going through their problems. And the same advice was, when's the last time you read Bhagavad Gita? When's the last time you picked up Srila Prabhupada's books? And, you know, 9 times out of 10, they weren't reading. So that's very important. We have to read. And I was trying to find this one picture of Srila Prabhupada, so merciful, just to drop. You could see his almost the tears out of compassion for all, you know, his disciples and all the conditioned souls. Just one drop of his nectar, tear. He's crying to Krishna for us. So any other comments, questions?
I have something to add. Can you pick up your cartels one more time, Gaudacandra?
Yeah.
I'm gonna. I don't know if you can hear this over the microphone here, but.
Yeah. Was I doing that?
No, I'm demonstrating pure bell metal.
Yeah.
On my last visit to India,
Wow.
That's good. I mean, mine didn't sound that good today.
Yeah, no, the devotees, a lot of devotees have bad metal. Anyway,
Yeah.
just to let everybody know, I have some pure bell metal cartels here. I found somebody, and this is after searching for 30 plus years. Because they,
Yeah, it's the difference.
yeah,
Wow.
there's quite a difference.
Do you have
If
a
anybody's
do you have a
interested
contact?
in some
Doug, did you
really good cartels, I have them.
contact for getting
Wow.
more? You have a contact for ordering other pairs like that?
Ramananda can give anybody interested on the call my email and we'll talk.
Now you have to learn the process of converting bell metal into gold.
Yeah.
Well,
We know the process. We just have to do it.
Yeah.
it's rare to even find bell metal these days. But one thing I wanted to add that struck me in the purport, Prabhupada says, purification of the heart. That was beautiful. Also, the gentle rains,
Yeah.
and the monsoons, right, have a different effect. The gentle rains clear the reservoir temporarily, and the monsoons flush everything out. They purify everything out. So, beautiful analogy. But Prabhupada, towards the end of the purport, he goes, purification of the heart by culture of knowledge or mystic yoga may be all right for the time being for an individual person, but it is like the cleansing of a small quantity of stagnant water by chemical processes. I didn't know there was a chemical that could do that, but Prabhupada knows. That's his background. It's
called alum.
It's called what?
Alum.
Oh, alum does
alum, yeah. That's one of them.
Such clarification of water may stand for the time being, and the sediments settle down, but by a slight agitation, everything becomes muddy. And it's, you know what it reminded me of? Sometimes, you have these moments where the lights go on, you connect the dots. And so, in the next line, Prabhupada says, the idea is that devotional service to the Lord is the only method of cleansing the heart for good. And why is that? Because bhakti burns up the seeds of material desire.
Right.
It's the only process that does that. Whereas, and then Prabhupada says, whereas other methods may be superficially good for the time being, there's a risk of becoming muddy again due to the agitation of the mind. So this reminds me of when Prabhupada tells us that controlling the mind and senses by a mechanical yogic process has proven historically to be risky, such as in the cases of powerful yogis like Vishwamitra Muni and others who have fallen from mystic perfection. And it's just, all that has to happen is the mind gets agitated, whereas the 9 devotional processes, beginning with hearing and chanting, are performed on the transcendental platform. So instead of someone laboring under a misconception, cultivating knowledge, whether it's to become liberated from knowledge, from suffering, or become one with God, or become independently, mystically powerful or self-controlled, one simply has to act in his pure constitutional position as Nitya Krishna Das. And he's assured to go back home, back to Godhead. And then Prabhupada, one other part of the purport, says something very powerful. It is said that a single pure devotee of the Lord can deliver all the fallen souls of the world, and Prabhupada demonstrated that. And so he not only was empowered, but by his spiritual master, but he was empowering others. But we have to become pure to become that powerful. We have to become pure.
Jai. Thank you.
Sure.
So I hope we got some hints today.
That was nice, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Gaudacandra, you quoted a verse, and I don't think I know that verse. You quoted a verse, and then you said something about our only business is to become Krishna conscious. But what was that verse you quoted?
Was it the one that was written on here? Oh, I think. Let's see.
I don't. I think it's just one that you quoted, and I wasn't at my computer, so I don't know if it was part of the purport. I don't think it was.
Yeah, it was probably
But
one of the ones.
You quoted something, and then you said our only business is to become Krishna conscious. Was that in the purport?
Yeah. Let me see. Let me just escape out of here, and we'll see if we can find it. One of these verses
I like
here.
those kind of verses.
We could get it over here. Is this one? Could be. I'm not sure.
Did it have the word yata in it?
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Krishna?
No, that wasn't it. I know that verse. Something you quoted I wasn't familiar with. And then you said our only business become Krishna conscious. Well, if you find that, if you think of that later, just let me know.
Yeah, I'll find it. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, that's that one.
Or we have the recording. We'll listen.
It was this one, Prabhu.
Hmm.
So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Sadhu Shastra Kripaya Yadi Krishna Mukha. The only business is how to become Krishna conscious, how to become Krishna conscious.
That's it. Okay, what is that verse? What's
that could only be done by the mercy of a sadhu. So that's
from the number?
I think it's from that verse in the Anjalila I quoted, 2012. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sadhu Shastra Kripaya.
Okay, that's all I need. Sadhu Shastra Kripaya.
Yeah, Kripaya Yadi Krishna Mukha.
Sadhu Shastra?
Yeah.
Kripaya,
yeah. Let's see if I got.
Okay, I'll find that. Thank you, Prabhu.
Oh, you know where that's
That
from?
It's
It's from a lecture that Prabhupada gave on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in Bombay, March 17th, 1971. That was from one of his lectures. I think it was on this particular verse. And that's where he talks about that sadhu should go door to door, and and how Krishna consciousness is already there. So, yeah. Thank you so much. If any other realizations, comments? I guess you guys are still trying to quit at 10. Hopefully.
We're well over, but we like that. We like when it has to go. I like it.
Yeah, actually, I do have to kind of finish up here because we're just bringing the duties.
Us love it when it's so sweet like this. We don't want to quit.
Yeah. Got to churn the ocean. Boil the milk.
Go to Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I'll go to Prabhupada. Go to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Hare Krishna.